mulatto stuff, but I feel like I don't want to turn into like the Shade Room stream type shit. Yo, let's do this real quick. Let's do this. Okay? We all watched the King Von. We watched the King Von Rap First Serial Killer.
His head.
We watched the King Von Rap First Serial Killer, documentary. It was 3 hours and 36 minutes, right? All of a sudden, what happened after that is the same thing what happened when I did the war in Chirac. People want to start poking holes into what you did by attacking you and attacking the integrity of what you do by saying you're a culture vulture or you're not from here. Yo, why you talking about stuff that blah, blah, blah. You're the one inciting issues. So the person who makes the documentary or does the coverage, the media, is what's encouraging violence in Chicago. So after this was done, and by the way, it was done by Trap Lord Ross, there was a debate done. And I spoke to Trap Lord Ross before, and I said, bro, they're going to try to do to you what they did to me after I did the war in Chirac. They try to blame murders on me. They said that it was me sparking and instigating. And they're going to gaslight you into a situation where there is zero accountability taken for what's actually happening. I want to give credit to everybody involved. Van Lathan, Chicago Dave, and also Trap Lord Ross. Because Trap Lord Ross, he asked me, what do you think? Do you think I should just cancel something? I say, if you cancel, they call you a coward. But you need to be prepared for the bad faith arguments they're going to make at you, because the people who either are in Chicago or are benefiting from some of the stuff with drill music, or who act like they ignore it, they don't want to ever seem accountable for what's going on, right? Or they don't want to call out the rappers. There's a lot of people who they'll be like, yo, we're community leaders in Chicago. And you ask them, so who's responsible for this violence? They will never say, the rappers who are in these beefs, who are funding these gangs, who are buying guns, bailing people out, paying for lawyers, making songs to say, we're going to disrespect you. They don't blame those guys at all. They blame other people. Yo, it's the mayor, it's the news articles, it's the YouTube guy. So I want to show you this debate real quick, and I thought this was pretty good. Trap Lord Ross, Dave, Van Lathan. I came in later, but I wait, what the fuck? Is my button not working? Van Lathan. Okay, here we go. I wanted to play this. Let's see if I can play this whole thing.
Adam.
Okay. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I wanted to play the first part of this debate, which is Van Lathan is the moderator. We're going to have Chicago Dave, who is the Chicago representative, debating with Trap Lord Ross about why he did this documentary, and you're going to hear some crazy things. Here we go.
For holding this, and you, Dave, for pulling up and having an open conversation with me. You know, the reason I made this video is I've always been a huge fan of Von's music. You know, I'm just a random dude in England, in a million miles away from Chicago. But this guy's music impacted me, you know. His songs were pushed to me through YouTube, Spotify. You know, there was a time when I'd never heard of King Von, and then there suddenly I heard of the guy, and then suddenly he was all I was hearing about in the rap game. You know, this guy with his amazing raps, you know, these sort of deep, very layered songs all about murder and people he had supposedly killed. You know, I was listening to these songs and kind of just thinking, like, is this true? Is this cap? Is this real gangster rap? You know, you might remember, like, right at the start of my documentary, I kind of break down sort of like the history of gangster rap and how people are always looking for the new real artists. You know, they're looking for the realest rappers, people who are really about what they say. When I first heard of King Von, I started listening to his music. It was kind of hard to believe that some of what he was saying was true. I started looking into him, and I was already making YouTube videos about kind of rap history at this point. And I ended up making a couple of videos about Von. And it was interesting because we're talking about 3 years ago now. But, you know, I had Von and his team kind of reach out very aggressively, kind of threatened me and pressed me to take specific references to the murder of KI out of the video. And it really shook me up, to be honest. It really made me feel like, damn, you know, I've stumbled into the path of, by his own words, a real killer. And, you know, he's making this music about these real crimes. So I'll be honest, I kind of stopped talking about Von after that. But as time went by, his star continued to rise. He became a bigger and bigger artist. You know, he's having songs on the Billboard charts, you know, gold and platinum certified songs and projects featuring with Lil Durk, one of the biggest artists in the hip hop game, in the whole, you know, in the whole hip hop sphere right now. So this guy was kind of really pushed to me. And then, you know, just over the years, I just slowly looked closer and closer into the stories behind his music. You know, a lot of people have made videos and documentaries about Von, you know, the murders he allegedly had something to do with.
Skip a little bit, hold on.
Doing music, looking at song lyrics. Some good, some bad. You know, I'm not afraid of that.
I want to get Chicago Dave into this because he's representing Chicago's view of all of these content about Chicago.
Having the debate about it, and I know some people's feelings have been hurt, and I'm down to listen and maybe understand why maybe some people didn't feel good about the video, but that's my perspective. You know, the guy was super famous. He was charting on Billboard with songs talking about how many people he killed, and I think I decided to look into it and make a video.
I'll explain a serial killer to me. The definition that you received from the FBI.
So the FBI defines a serial killer as somebody that's killed 3 or more people with space in between each of the killings. So not going on a killing spree and killing 7 people in the same day. It's killing people with time passing. You got time to think about what you're doing in between the killings. And killing 7 people, I don't think makes you a serial killer. The other element of what FBI defines as a serial killer is the element of psychological gratification. So people getting something out of the killings, people getting a sense of self-esteem or a sense of excitement out of the murders, a sense of excitement about not getting caught. And I feel that really the time when Von could really be classified as a serial killer isn't when he killed all those people allegedly in the gang war. It's when he started rapping about it. It's when he started trying to convince the whole world that he had done this. He wanted the whole world to know that he had 7 bodies, as he said, and he wanted to continue killing people. He had that famous lyric where he said, killed some N-words, I'll do it again. You know, he allegedly put up $100,000 and arranged for FBG Duck to be killed after becoming a millionaire. So I think it's really not the fact that he was in a situation, you know, where unfortunately he was pushed into violence by circumstances of where he grew up. That's not what I think makes him a serial killer. I think it's unfortunate a lot of people are born into difficult areas and are forced to do things to survive. But I think when it came to Von, when he became famous and he became a millionaire, he kept wanting to tell the world that he had killed people. He seemingly continued to play a role in having people killed. I think FBG Duck is the prime example. There's also the example of Man, Can't Get Right, an individual who obviously was kind of gunned down, and King Von released a song within a week of that murder talking about my killers are catching bodies for me. So it's kind of like, you know, I think he meets the definition of a serial killer, not because of what he did in the streets, but actually because of what he did when he got out of the streets. He kept pushing this narrative that he was a killer. He kept trying to arrange for people he didn't like to be killed. You know, when he was a millionaire, he didn't need to put a bounty on FBG Duck's head. You know, he could have let that slide, and he did it, and he tweeted about it, and he wanted everyone to know what he had done. So to me, it's those 2 elements that make him a serial killer. It's not that he killed people. A lot of people are put in situations. I mean, DaBaby, Gucci Mane. There's a lot of rappers that have been unfortunately put in those situations where they've had to take a life, and you know, it's not the same as rapping in a bunch of songs that you're proud of killing 7 people and that you'll do it again and that they can't play with you. You know that.
Hey, by the way, this whole time I'm gonna keep it real with you. Salute to Chicago Dave. Like I think he did really, you know, he handled himself like a gentleman in this entire conversation. But with how I know people like scapegoating, a lot of people who I've spoken to in Chicago, I'm wondering how they think about his performance in this whole debate. Because I ain't gonna lie, I think motherfucking Trap Lord Ross nailed him to the cross. And I hate to give you out spoilers, but like I'm listening to Trap Lord Ross. He's hitting facts. And you're going to hear what the retort is.
That's how I see it, but I'm open to hearing a broader kind of perspective.
My whole thing about it wasn't even like so much about King Von. It was about all the other cans that are being opened. when these type of documentaries drop. All the other people that's been killed and people that's probably just sitting around that day, and you drop this documentary, then they go slide on somebody because you put a picture of one of their people in this documentary, and now you mentioning Vaughn again. So it's like you re-wakening up the dead in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even think you know probably how many shootings that video probably caused since the day it dropped.
By the way, the interesting part about this, they're like, yo, your video that dropped 4 days ago caused so much shootings. But King Von allegedly killing 7 niggas and allegedly bragging about people he killed or people he tried to kill, those caused no shootings. Or really, we're going to excuse those because that's just par for the course. But you making this video, that's where the violence starts. Like, you know what I mean? That's what was the thing I think, you know, I've never seen like a conversation where people are like, bro, are you serious?
How many bodies probably in drop because of that video? How much more gasoline have been added to that whole big issue?
Let me also pause again by saying, your video has caused so many bodies to be dropped, but I have zero problem with King Von making music, taunting Tuka and other people, which also probably caused bodies to be dropped. I have no problems with that. I just care that you made a video, and I think even though you have a lesser effect on culture and on inciting things, because really you don't know nobody that you're a white dude. We have more problems with what your incitement level is versus King Von. I've always said, and this is the reason why I gravitated to Charleston White initially, because the moment you start calling out a Ak or a Trap Lord Ross, you got to keep the same energy for the rappers. If you're only picking on the journalists and the content creators, you know what it tells me? If you were to say that, yo, Dirk, why are you rich and you not living here no more? Dirk don't live in Chicago. But boy, you keep over here, you funding this, you doing that, you rapping about this. Man, Dirk will get somebody's head slapped off. They not going to do it. They scared of Dirk. Everybody's scared of Dirk. So if you scared of Dirk, but you got the energy for the media, dude, that kind of look a little crazy, don't it?
Even though it's going on, every time it jump into the people's eye, it gets bigger. And somebody else build up more courage to go out here and do and commit more killings. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's deeper than just Vaughn. Like, you got to think about Vaughn kids growing up watching the video about they father being a serial killer. It's okay. He rapped about it.
Yo, you know, I never realized this after like this happened, but imagine this. Yo, King Von, we got to worry about King Von's kids growing up and hearing you saying he's a serial killer, even though he made $1 million lifestyle. By the way, this is what I heard. Von's assets worth about $18 million. His assets in music currently, which is going to appreciate because he's a legend. So Von's whole family is taken care of, and they're going to be millionaires. Why are they millionaires? They're millionaires because he rapped about the people he allegedly killed. It's not because he rapped about, you know what I mean, roses or red, violets or blue. He rapped about, I'm the biggest killer. Fuck you niggas. I killed 7 niggas. But now when you point it out in a non-glamorous way, yo, what about his kids? Why you don't think about it? You think when Von's kids probably won't go to a public school. They're going to be dripped out in designer. They're probably going to be going to private school. They're probably going to be living in a mansion. They're not going to live in O-Block projects, not Parkway Gardens. Do you think that somebody taps them and says, hey, King Von kids, you know the reason why you're living here is because your father rapped about the murders he may have committed? No. Yet, they're using the same logic to get at a Trap Lord Ross to say, how do you think his kids feel about your videos? Well, their lifestyle and everything they've gained is a byproduct of what he allegedly did. Nobody cares about that. You know why? Everybody who speaks on this, they don't want to go to war with people who still love King Von. Trap Lord Ross, academics, people who like, and you're going to see, I'm going to try to make sure when I get involved in this, they put me in it. He has no problem be like, well, Ak, you and Trap Lord Ross, y'all are goofies. That's the problem. That's my biggest issues with most people who talk about Chicago. You got to even put like even cowards, like I call my son a coward. You call out shit when it comes to me, but you scared of the rappers who do 10 times worse. You know why? Because Akademiks ain't going to do nothing to you. Trap Lord Ross not going to do nothing to you. If you call out Dirk for fueling a genocide in Chicago, you're getting smoked. That's what's going to happen. You live in Chicago. You can't move. I live in a big old mansion that's far away. You live in Chicago. You're getting killed. Like, niggas is not going to sit there and let you just criticize how Dirk has created his way of life that maybe hasn't fed your family, but has fed an entire ecosystem. So nobody calls out Dirk. That's within that system. Nobody. Nobody says, yo, bro, you got to stop doing it. Nobody. It's easy to call out people like him. I mean.
And people couldn't explain music to them because being an artist, you're a character. So I think the people that's like you, that's not really in this, not really from the culture, y'all take it as if, damn, this really Von. Oh, this really such and such. These people be characters. You ever seen Famous Dex? He be two different people. The baby, he be two different people. So just because Von was just tweeting, oh, I want to catch a body, he could have been talking about knocking down a female or something. You know what I'm saying?
This is why, I did hop in this debate, probably against my better judgment, but like, I thought it was a 4-0 sweep anyway. I thought he already bodied this guy. This is why I stopped debating with anyone from Chicago. They argue in bad faith. Anytime someone argues in bad faith, which means you're gaslighting to the fact or to the point where they are just devoid of any reasoning that is making sense. Now you're going to say you think Von got famous for rapping about bodies of him fucking women? You think the 7 bodies when he's counting up was about the women he got? That's why people bought in. When somebody gaslights you like this, it's because they're usually not really trying to debate. They're trying to, quote unquote, debate for the streets. The streets can't debate. And by the way, later on when I come in, I call him on this, and he says, yo, I'm still in. He's like, yo, I'm still out here. And I'm like, so you shouldn't be debating then. Because you're debating like you care about Chicago. No, you care about the streets. Of course, the streets, like, if you get locked up on a body and the proof is, oh, yo, you said you caught a body last night, you're going to tell your lawyer, oh, that's just art. Even though everybody in the community was knowing that, no, that's reality.
Or he could have just been tweeting it. That don't mean that these things actually really be going on. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot of people.
By the way, as much as they say people like whether it's me or Trap Lord Ross are disrespectful and just don't recognize people's whatever, and we're not from Chicago, you know how disrespectful it feels when someone is trying to rationalize a point that you're the killer of your brother or your son rapping and bragging about killing your brother or your son or your cousin isn't even talking about something that's real? When you had to pay for the funeral, was that real? When you had to lay that kid to rest, when you had to keep showing up and dropping flowers and cleaning off the grave, was that real? This guy's trying to gaslight us to say Von was rapping about fictional stuff, even though everybody in that video with Trap Lord Ross, they're deceased. They're dead. How could that be fictional? That's why I said you can't. I had to get to the point of saying I ain't doing these debates no more. It's over. There's lack of accountability.
People like I was on the phone with THF Zoo yesterday, right? Bay Zoo. Y'all don't even know these YouTube videos be having them people picking them up. Times when they spend time in the county and they fighting another case, y'all drop a YouTube video about a body. Them people come pick them up. He in the crib chilling or a little less sitting in doing his time. He getting picked up. All because of YouTube videos. And Von didn't tell you, oh, I killed KI. I killed this person. It's all speculations, but I understand like your whole point. Like he put it out there for the people, right? But I just be wanting y'all.
Hey, this is another reason why, as I said, bad faith conversations, right? He was talking about, like, I don't even know some of these guys, but like, in THF Zoo, right? You know where some of this information comes from? Yeah, they be acting like this dude who's, well, he's been to America, but he ain't been to Chicago. Neither have I. They're acting like we've just magically made this up. They're like, oh, y'all videos are getting people picked up. No, people are finding out of these guys because of indictments. That's the only reason why we found out that Moonwop was involved in FBG Duck's murder. He got indicted for it. When recently Mama Duck, and this is what's kind of being alluded to, Mama Duck, THF Crack, she came out and said, yo, this guy, she basically said that this THF Crack dude was the one who dropped the location for Duck. By the way, she's not making that up. Bro, this is how it works in any criminal investigation. The police are entitled to tell you and keep you updated with what's going on. When they indict someone, they got to tell you why they indict him. Hey, by the way, we just indicted the person who we believe gave up your location. Gave up your son's location. Mama Duck is like, who's that person? She gonna say the name on live. Listen.
Before Doug got killed, everybody be thinking he's slowing crazy. But he made the post, it's about to be duck sauce all downtown.
Show your face.
Now let's get actually a matter. Here said,
oh, this motherfucker just talking the whole time. Hold on. I'm trying to get to, because Mama Duck basically is the one who said it. It's on my Instagram. I don't know why. So Mama Duck came out and accused someone of dropping her son's location. How does she know this? Bro, the FBI told her, bro. They're doing an active investigation. They're checking social media. They're checking messages. They know exactly what's going on. They told her, yo, we're arresting this guy. He's the one who dropped your son's location. Of course, Mama Duck's going to bring it to the internet. The police ain't doing it. They're locking the dudes up already. Of course, YouTube channels are then going to report it or continue reporting it. Let me see if I can find it. Tell me if I oh, here we go. Here we go.
I can tell y'all. So I'm going to go and tell y'all. His name is Ralph Turpin. Also known.
The mere fact she knows the nigga government name should already tell you that the police told her that.
As Teasy, THF Teasy. I know him as Saul. He was the one saw my baby downtown, watched him from across the street, and lied and told them motherfuckers knowing they had a 100K bounty on my son's head. I could tell y'all.
There we go. So she says THFTZ. So back to the conversation or the debate that was happening. Bro, it's not these YouTube videos getting people picked up. It's like the police officers are doing their due diligence, bro.
To think about when y'all put these videos out about the people that's still living in these communities that can possibly end up shot, killed.
That's another thing. The dead have no one cares about the dead in Chicago. He's worried about the people who are living getting arrested, but he don't give a fuck about who was responsible for the people who died. Back to the problem.
Or just a whole nother war. And it'd be like, y'all make y'all money off YouTube, y'all get so famous and y'all don't even care. But at the end of the day, we got innocent women, grandmothers, grandfathers dying off of you because of YouTube videos. And because
of me.
Your video, I'm pretty sure it sparked, because I've been on the phone with people and they was mad about the Lil James situation. Like when you put the wrong picture up there. That created something. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't really know what really came from that. You know what I'm saying? Because you put that body on Vaughn. Now they slide on somebody from O Block and they accuse somebody over there now. All because you put the wrong picture up there. But you ain't gonna feel no sympathy from that. But that mother, that father, that daughter, that son, they gonna feel all of that. You feel what I'm saying? And I don't even want to say like no hater, like I'm knocking your video, because I'm really not knocking you. I understand what's going on, and I told you. If they get online and these rappers, they tell on themselves. But my whole point is be thinking about the bigger picture sometimes. And make sure you got real facts. Because if Vaughn didn't tell you this, you're right, it's all speculations. But just know you keeping the wars alive with everything that's going on. When you mention those 10 people, just know it's people on the other side slide.
Let's put what he says in a sentence. Yo, people forgot about the war, forgot that their uncle, their nephew, their cousin, their son, their niece, their nephew, or whatever got killed, but you made a video and you started the war back up. Really? Chicago is mostly retaliatory killings. It's not because of YouTube videos. It's because if you kill somebody and they have a family, they know who did it, they have friends, they're in a gang, people usually try to get some type of retaliatory action. It's not Trap Lord Ross. And here's the thing about it. Of course, no matter how long, like even think about the BTB Savage situation, there's always going to be people who are going to try to have some get back or whatever the case is, especially when the police ain't doing their job. Your nephew been dead for 3 years. The police acting like they can't solve a crime. Yes, especially if you know who it is. Maybe it don't happen today or tomorrow, but at some point you're like, somebody's going to try to cash in on trying to take somebody's life. It's reality.
That probably weren't even thinking about sliding in O Block because what? They got other options. But now when you go mention Vaughn and they killed little such and such, guess what? Just know they were sliding. And people like you do be the cause for that, bro. And I just want you to know, why you make all your money and you chill in the UK, keep that on your mind. And make sure that you put in some reserve funds away and you be sending money back to these neighborhoods to help bury some of these babies. Because that's how deep it is. Because it'd be a lot of babies getting buried because of YouTube videos. There's a lot of people getting locked up because of YouTube videos. And that was my whole point with my video.
So I'm gonna jump in real quick right here. Two things. Number one, I'm gonna say something for the people in the chat. I see Balo down there. I promise that this will be a conversation between these two guys. If Ross wants to talk to Balo later, or if that's cool with these two guys on the live, I'd love to have them in. I see what you guys are saying, so I'm not ignoring y'all. I do want to come back to Dave real quick and ask Dave something before we go to Ross. Dave, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have, I just asked you this, are going to have a hard time believing that there's anything outside of a specific culture that exists in Chicago that can be, that the violence there can be blamed on. Now, I was down there, I talked to you, and it seems like for people that grew up in certain parts of the city, there's just an understanding of how things go. So it's your belief, and before I move on to this, I'll say one more thing. It doesn't seem like any other rapper. Ross, you got as much time as you want to respond, and I'm gonna come
cool.
back.
So, I mean, Dave, listen, I respect where you're coming from on several of your points, and I think that I understand why you feel this way, but I think my perspective is just slightly different. I do disagree with a lot of what you just said. I think the first thing that I got to say I disagree on is, the idea that people are sliding behind my video. I just disagree with that, and the reason I disagree with that is because one, people don't slide about something they heard on the internet. Like, the people don't slide about a YouTube documentary. They slide about one of their homies got killed, one of their friends got murdered in cold blood. You know, how do you explain all the sliding that went on last week before my video came out? You know, all the different things that have been going on in Chicago. You can't really take that stretch and blame it on me and say people are sliding about my video. Like, I'm not exposing information that's not already out there. Like, this is all stuff that was on King Von's Twitter, in King Von's songs. I think the idea that you're going to try and pin violence on me is a bit of a stretch. And I know this is what they do this is what a lot of people have done to DJ Akademiks, as far as, like, you know, the war in Chirac being responsible for the violence. But if you just look at the chain of events.
By the way, I know y'all hate me pausing it. When I got in here, I wanted to make sure, because, you know, still to my boy Trap Laura Ross, he mentioned me a few times. I stopped always, like, if you're going to be in debate, you got to know when to concede. That's a really important skill. I could defend a stance while defending my approach. So I always said the way I did the war in Chirac was maybe not the most thoughtful approach, even though I do defend covering the content, right? Yeah, I could have done it without a little bit of satire, name calling, this and third, even though I still remain that any name calling was mostly aimed at the fucking people who were the aggressors and the people who were creating the violence. But it's neither here nor there. I've always said no one even does that type of content like that anymore. You know what I mean? Most of these guys are documentary makers. They're just trying to, like, just give the context of it, because honestly, the ridiculousness of what they're covering is more captivating than any type of, you know, ad hominem or anything you could add to the video as a creator. So, you know, I like to take the war in Chirac out of it. You don't have to defend that. You know what I mean? Don't defend the war in Chirac when you're defending what you did. You ain't called King Von no names. You ain't called the people no names. You literally said what it was. You don't have to defend what I did. Cool. You know, I've dealt with whatever ramifications for years. When you do that, they have no leg to stand on.
Events, like, the violence has already occurred before I turned up and started looking into it. Like, I wouldn't even bother Googling somebody's name if they weren't already implicated in these situations, right? So it's really a case of, like, the violence was already going on. I'm just here reporting on it. And I think any attempt to kind of blame me or even Akademiks, but let's stick with me, like, to say that people are sliding about my video, I think that's just, like, it's a really bad faith way of trying to, like, avoid responsibility, because the people that are really responsible for the sliding or the violence, you know, at the basic level, it's the individuals involved that are picking up a gun and choosing to cause violence. But then at another level, fine, if you want to make the next distinction, it's the city, it's the mayors, the politicians that have allowed these areas to get so bad, so dangerous, where there's no opportunities, that people are kind of forced into these, you know, gang situations where they need to use a gang for protection. I think those people, the politicians, and just the lack of guidance in these areas is much more responsible for the violence than, like, me reporting on it, because I wouldn't have any, if it hadn't already happened, I wouldn't have anything to report on, right? So it's kind of like, I just think it's a stretch to try and blame me. And I think that the people that need to, for my genuine opinion, is the people that really need to take accountability is, like, the city, the police, the mayor. Because let's be real, like, Chicago is a fucked up place. It's been in a messed up situation for the past, you know, 20 years, realistically. 20 years.
By the way, I hate to pause it again, but I will. I'm sorry. Again, I'll leave a link or some of you guys can watch it without me talking in between. But that's what I've realized about Chicago a bit. You know, I always want to work within, try to, in my own way, help the city of Chicago, because I do care about it. You know, culturally, it's inspired me. It's been a place that created a lot of things that I've loved. So, of course, I would love to help the city. But what happens is that what it turns to, and I think it's been even this way recently with me in Chicago, it's like everybody feels that, you're going to hear when I get in there, everybody feels they're entitled to a handout. Even the people that had nothing to do with what your content about Chicago was. Like, later on, me and Chicago Dave talk about it, and I say, well, what I think I owe to Chicago is the people who I covered. I believe because now my media platform is bigger, and I've always said, I said it to Dirt back then. That's why me and him used to be playing video games when he got dropped. I sent it to Lil Reese. That's why we met up in the Complex building on Sunday when the whole shit was closed. I brought him in that building, brought him to some floor that we shouldn't even be on, and we did an interview. I said, you know what? Because I'm expanding as a media personality, as a platform, I owe you something because I did cover your plight. And because I'm not a fucked up human, I want to help you as I'm going up, right? But what they've taken that to be is like, yo, you owe the whole Chicago. And it's like, okay, what do you mean I owe the whole Chicago? Oh, there's a kid that who's 14 who started rapping. You owe him to like put him on. And that's where like, you know, you realize that most of some of the gripes that they have is just unreasonable. They're not trying to say like, oh, just help out. Like, for example, like, you know, I gave some money to a particular person in Chicago, and it was going to go for some good things. I'm like, all right, great. You know, I feel good about it. I still feel good about giving that money. But then it becomes another person saying, well, you ain't giving no money to us. Then another person says, yo, bruh, you know, we really from O Block. Why you ain't buy this for us? And it's like, whoa. So it's like everybody's like, you'll never please people. So then when you're like, all right, cool, you know, since clearly like money's an issue here, let me show you how the people who really benefit, because if we talk about how beneficial the war in Chirac was to me on a personal level, what I gained from that channel or whatever the case is, minuscule into what like a label gained from it, nobody want to have that conversation. So it's just bad faith all around, where it's like, you know, every time I extend my hand, I say I'm down to help Chicago, it's one or two people to say, well, helping Chicago is helping me. And it's only individualized. And then you look at the person who's saying they're demanding help, they have nothing to do with the content you used to cover. So you start kind of realizing that, you know what I mean? Like, people just feel like you're just indebted to them just to get them to where they need to be. Has nothing to do with the content you did or what you think you might, you know, need to try to help people with, to try to help them from a situation. So it's one of those.
It's plus where these things have been allowed to happen. You know, people, someone like Von, setting aside his music career, like, we shouldn't have had a young guy that's in a situation where their father's getting killed when they're 11, right? He's already starting off at a disadvantage with that situation, right? So it's kind of like the circumstances that exist that allow young people to fall in these dangerous situations, you know, whether it's gang violence or you've got situations in Chicago where people are doing robberies and that's going wrong and they're ending up in, you know, people are ending up hurt and killed as a result of that. But like, at the end of the day, I think it's just such a stretch to try and blame me and YouTube videos, when really all we're trying to do is report on what's going on. Like, you've got a guy like King Von who's making Billboard charting songs about how he's killed 7 people. That's really glorifying the violence. You got the guy that's literally committing the murders, rapping about it, getting paid. He's a millionaire. Listen, bro, like, I make a bit of money. I'm not a millionaire. I'm nowhere near a millionaire. Like, King Von was a millionaire wearing APs and diamond chains off the back of allegedly killing people and rapping about it, right? So I don't think I glorify it. I think in my video, I'm actually very careful and very thoughtful when it comes to saying, you know, you said you watched the whole video, so I'm sure you saw it, but there's a section in the video where I explain, look, let's take a step back before we get into this and look at why these circumstances were allowed to happen. You know, I talk about King Von being born into a difficult situation, losing his father at a young age, losing a lot of his friends at a young age. You know, he himself says that seeing his friend White get killed in front of him turned him into a demon. And it's like, these are the situations, like this messed up environment in Chicago that's been allowed to happen by the city and the state and whoever else is responsible for things getting so bad. You know, those are the things that turned people into demons or fucked people up. I think to say that people like me that are reporting on it and just trying to give perspective about what's going on in these Billboard charting songs, you know, a guy's going to turn on the radio and hear a guy talking about he's got 7 bodies. I think we all have a right to know whether or not that's true, what the stories are behind that. But I really struggle to agree when it comes to suggesting that, like, I'm responsible for the violence. And I think people that watch my video all the way through, I think you can see I try and approach this topic with a responsible tone. I try and say, look, there are reasons why things are so fucked up in Chicago.
Nah, you using some facts right here. I want to hear what Dave had to say.
This violence continues to happen. And we all know as a fact, he killed 7. No one said.
Clout is the biggest drug in the world right now, besides fentanyl. These people are literally watching your videos like yours, or watching CNN News, or watching Fox 32 of murders, going home to watch the news to see their work being displayed. Just know there's somebody right now thinking, I want to be on that Trap Ross video. Let's go out, do these murders, talk about it in some songs in the hope that they can get your attention. They're craving this. And you can't tell me that you don't know people is craving this, man. As intelligent as you seem, and I know you are highly intelligent. I can tell. I definitely can tell by your work, that documentary. So I know you got to know that you're helping create other many means. We can't say Vaughn was a serial killer. He was never convicted of not one murder. Not one murder. Even when they thought that they had him for a murder, what happened? Beat the cases, right?
This is why it's futile to argue a lot of times with people in the inner city about shit like this. Their own self-survival means they can't be honest, right? The dude lives in Chicago. He's not going to sit here and definitively say, no, King Von not only everybody in the hood know King Von killed them niggas, like blah, 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 blah. So he's playing like this hood lawyer method of, well, was he convicted? With his logic, OJ never did nothing. And, I mean, there's a lot of people who did something or maybe have beaten the case that really did it. They're completely innocent too. Again, it would be different if it was like one particular, situation or incident. We talking about a nigga who's saying he got 7 bodies. The families of those people are rejoicing when he dies. They're saying that they believe that person killed or was involved with the killing of their family member. What are we still talking about?
That means he didn't do it. And I'm not on here like just taking Von's side. No, I'm just speaking facts. He was never convicted of not one murder, even though he rapped about it. You got Future rap about drugs. And people that be around and say Future do not pop fucking pills. People just put things that sound good to people. I'm pretty sure, Van, you done heard this. They say Future talk about Molly and all this shit. And guess what? You don't see him off no Molly. People in Chicago.
Future, I don't know. I'm not about to stop you, Dave. Future like to get high. But
I don't know. See? Now look, the only way you know that is if you was there with him and you was getting high with him or something.
All right, I'm going to skip a little bit into it because I do get added at some point. And I ain't going to lie, after listening to so much cap and hypocrisy, when I did get in, I was like on 10. So, forgive me, like the thing with me being on any panel, I kind of sucked the air out of the room, pause. But this is when I got in.
To be honest, though, because I've been in a bunch of these before and I've never shied away. I think the context and the pretext that y'all were debating on was just like, I warned Trap Lord Ross, but I was actually wrong. There's like zero way to defend Vaughn in the majority of things you talk about. You're either going to have a bad faith debate about Vaughn or be completely delusional, or you're going to have to be forced to be acknowledge certain uncomfortable truths. And to be honest, like, salute to my man Dave, but like, the moment I heard he said, yo, maybe when Vaughn was talking about bodies, he was talking about the chicks he smashed. I said, oh, we got it. Like, that's being willfully ignorant. It's being willfully ignorant about if people in the UK could read through and decode what this person's admitting, and it's also matching up with actual crimes. Brother, you can't tell me you're on the streets of Chicago and you're thinking you're playing games. So now we're not even having a debate. Now we're not having a debate. Now we're having a okay. And by the way, this is the easiest thing. They do it to me too. When we can't debate you, we're gonna just say you're the police. We're gonna call you the cops.
How can I be a street nigga and get on here and say he bodied somebody? So I'm supposed to be like, oh yeah, he killed the motherfucker. When you in the streets, you don't tell it. You don't talk about no shit that's in the streets. You don't get on the internet and talk about that. That's where I come from. So I would never get on here and mention nothing about nobody bodies or nothing. Even if I was right there when they murdered the motherfucker, I'm not gonna speak about it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The conversation is disingenuous because you come into the conversation saying that what Trap Lord Ross did and framing Vaughn as a serial killer is unfair, when in reality, Vaughn is not the victim. The 7 people or however many that he may have been accused of or to be the suspect of being killed or killed, those are the victims. So you're
he was a victim.
The victim is not Vaughn. And
Can I be real with you though? If you watch Ross's video, it doesn't come off like that. And this to me, I'm gonna ask all of the relevant questions, but I've watched the evolution of Trap Lord Ross's video from the time that he was painting his face like 6ix9ine to the time to where I actually believe that he's become one of the most thorough, one of the most digestible, and one of the most noteworthy documentarians, period. And I tell people this all the time. If you watch the whole video, there's no way that you come away with the idea that King Von
a victim of life and circumstances. That's what
I mean to say. And that's what I mean to say. Like there's just let me finish acting. I'm not gonna talk this, but the whole beginning of the video is an interrogation and an explanation of the circumstances of King Von's life that might have led him to becoming some of the things that people think.
No, absolutely. Most people that come from any impoverished background or any background or area where there's a lot of violence, they're probably a victim of that. That's not what, obviously if you watch the whole thing, you saw somebody who kind of maniacally enjoyed the fact that, he had the power to kill and that he did kill and bragged about other killings and then bragged about inflicting hurt and pain. That's a little bit different. But, even beyond that, that's what I was just saying about even this debate. I'm like, if you're going into it saying that, everything was wrong, I think that's also being not only disingenuous to, like, we got common sense here. We're not gonna, we don't have to be police, you're right. We don't have to solve crimes. But if a dude is basically just giving us all the clues and it matches up with everything, like, come on. We don't gotta admit it, but it has to be understood at least. So then when you start moving the conversation, and by the way, I've been in a bunch of these conversations, it always stops here. My approach, which is a little bit different than Trap Lord Ross's approach, is I'll admit some culpability. And the culpability I've always admitted is that, by the way, what I do in Trap Lord Ross does is slightly different. When I did the war in Chirac, I've always told people I would never do it again, only because I did it in a satirical approach. I gave nicknames, and some of those things, when dealing with a lot of pain and hurt, you should probably remove. Okay, so I've always said that wasn't the best way to do it. Right at that time, I felt it was. In hindsight, I would have done it that way. But I still defend, whether it's me, Trap Lord Ross, or anybody else. Like, you got to realize, like, King Von made a whole a career worth tens of millions of dollars off of these crimes and bragging about all the violence he did. You can't tell me that because he's entitled to that, the victims don't get any type of, by the way, imagine being a victim or a family of one of the victims, and the dude who allegedly did something to your relative is the biggest rapper from your neighborhood. There is no payback for that. They don't get anything. So it's kind of like, it's odd when y'all point out, like, yo, you're not from Chicago. How could you talk about it? You're from the UK. How could you talk about it? Well, it's always thinking about the person who's probably already inflicting all this violence. Nobody, like, the whole conversation we having, it would be different if we start talking about the 7 people, right? But
nah, that fucking boy is spitting, man. I ain't gonna lie. I was off 3 cups of Henny, but I was going in. That boy's fucking spitting, man. You the fucking best, man. I be listening to myself like, damn, I'm a genius.
Most of it is about Von's image. Did he do it? Did he not do it? Is he charged? Is he not? What about the actual people who clearly were victims? Okay, what about the people who he built a career off bragging about them being dead? What about that? Right? Because there's a bunch of those people. Are we ever going to talk about that? And then the last thing, because I want to just suck up all the air in the room, the last thing always comes to this. I love these conversations, and I always get to I always like to join them, because I want to show that we need to progress. Like, for example, if we're all, and that's what I'm saying about being disingenuous to a conversation, if no one's willing to concede, we're just going to be here just like talking at like brick walls. The reason why I always say, okay, I'll admit that, you know, the way I handled the media for that time in the war in Chirac wasn't the best, is because I'm hoping other people are going to say, well, these things aren't as well conducive to trying to stop the violence, but no one stops there. People usually lump all the blame on the media, right? Yo, it's people like me or Trap Lord Ross why people are sliding. Are you kidding me? You tell me that when Lil Durk drops like 15 names and just put on his Instagram story, actual real situations that usually people like me or Trap Lord Ross, I keep naming people we don't know. We got to Google. You know, like we're like you know, the funny thing is people think that Trap Lord Ross has like a PI, like a private investigator or like some type of like cooperating in Chicago. Yo, he's Googling. He went through a Twitter feed. You know what I mean? Like he's looking up Chicago Tribune articles. It's not that hard. You know what I mean? Like these coded messages to think that you know, crime is contained within a community and that if anybody else decodes these simplistic.
Now, I ain't gonna lie, man. My debate skills is getting up there. I ain't gonna lie. I love debates. Even though I won't consider this like Trap Lord Ross already 3-0'd him, if you ask me. So I just came in with just, you feel me? But I feel like I'm killing it right here. I ain't gonna hold you.
Ways of
I ain't gonna lie. Nobody ride my dick better than me. Pause. Wait, is that pause?
how, you know, people are kind of glorifying crime. You know what I mean? Like these dudes are talking about scoreboards all the time. Check this. Like, come on, if somebody else who has a brain to say, oh, they're talking about killing each other, they're not the problem. The niggas killing each other are the problem. That's what I think. Here, again, I know I said it was the last point, but I just want us to further the debate. So if you think Trap Lord Ross is wrong for making this video, I would ask you this. Do you think Lil Durk is wrong for continually making music, stoking a fire, and also laughing at people who died? If you do think that, because I think we should come to some type of agreement, right? Because I've seen somebody even write an article recently. They're like, yo, Akademiks still has the War in Chirac channel. Would you then say that all music that stokes the fire, all YouTube videos, or YouTube commentators who are instigating according to you, would you say all of that should be banned, not only by whether it's YouTube, maybe platforms, Spotify, Apple, Pandora, Amazon? Also, should we then hold the labels accountable? They should not be giving out tens of millions of dollars that's funding black genocide. Do we ever get to there, or we just stop at Trap Lord Ross made a 3-hour video, and you know what? Yes, clearly it's bringing a problem. I look at it as it brings it into focus, right? And I don't think it brings it into focus just for the aspect of like glory.
Yo, I ain't gonna lie, I could talk, boy. Yo, I could talk, boy. I kid you not. Yo, I could talk, boy. Yo.
Glorifying it or some voyeuristic, like weird shit. I think it also brings into focus to say, while you guys laugh and dance to this drill music, that sounds really good. Should Have Ducked is one of my favorite songs. I hate to say what it is. That
Should Have Ducked is one of my favorite songs.
shit is celebrating Black Death. So what do you want to do? Are you going to then approach the mayor? And I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking about us collectively. Are we then going to start approaching the mayor?
Real quick, I want to get.
So
Let
Okay.
Dave.
My
let
bad.
Dave get in there, bro.
So AK, I
Yeah,
want
we
to
got
say
that.
this right.
Yeah.
So you
Okay,
mentioned
I know you
Dirk.
off the end.
When Dirk put these lyrics out here to the world, when Dirk put those lyrics out there and people sliding, he a street nigga. When Trap Ross,
By the way, love Chicago Dave. By the way, I don't think he's I don't think he's a horrible person. I think he's a guy he wants to be in these discussions. He's from this area. I like him. One thing I'll say about him, he's relying on old talking points that not only Trap Lord Ross, but people like me have realized that these bad faith approaches. You hear what he's trying to say? Well, I hear you mentioning that Dirk is still talking about the slide-in, but Dirk is a street nigga. Yo, I just heard the deal that Dirk just signed. Dirk don't live nowhere near the violence that this is going on, bro. Dirk don't, like, with all due respect, and I want to be very careful even mentioning this. Even Dirk's brother who got killed at Club O, bro, they are far removed. That was their natural inclination to still show love to certain places. They're not stuck in these environments. Remember, the whole conversation came from, okay, well, if these people are stuck in these environments, who are you to ridicule and stoke the fire? Makes sense. Pretty good argument. The people who are now stoking the fire the most, they're not stuck in these environments. You might say they have prior trauma, but their microphone is bigger than me and Trap Lord Ross, and they don't live nowhere near this. Lil Durk done made $25 million in his career. You think Lil Durk is thinking about if he could ride to the store and he got to drive past or he got to ride his bicycle past 63rd? No. So when he's making this argument like, well, Dirk's a street nigga and you guys are not, what all he's telling me is that black violence and black genocide and black death should be exclusively left to be benefited from by the people who have some connection to those environments. And I would be able to understand that point, except, and that's what I'm saying, these talking points, I've just had it too many times. Like, I feel like any reasonable person will agree with me. Okay, so Dirk could do this and he could benefit from it, but his record label owner, who looks like